Welcome to From Bottles to the Boardroom, where we explore the blend of the best, the people, places, and possibilities of Southern California wine country. I'm your host, Connie Stouffer, and each episode we sit down with local leaders, innovators, and dreamers who are building business and community among the vines. Because here in SoCal wine country, business growth meets the good life, and every great conversation starts with a good pour. On this episode, we'll be unlocking the secrets behind one of Temecula's most inspiring community events, TEDx Temecula. We'll be talking to Jonathan Montanez, lead organizer of the event, who pulls back the curtain on what makes this event so special. Jonathan shares insights including how to become a speaker, the event's unique experience, and how the community can get involved. Discover what makes TEDx Temecula a powerful platform for sharing ideas and inspiring change. Jonathan Montanez, thank you so much for joining me on the show. I'm super excited to get to talk to you today.
Hey, Connie, thanks for inviting me. I'm excited to have this conversation as well.
Perfect. So let's just dive right in, and I'm going to start by having you tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Okay, sure. So my name is Jonathan Montanez. We covered that already. I am a father and a husband right here in the Temecula Valley. I'm a business owner, entrepreneur, and today I want to talk about TEDx Temecula. I am the lead organizer and licensee for TEDx Temecula. I'm very excited about our upcoming event.
Yeah, so that's a great segue. Tell me a little bit about TEDx Temecula. I think a lot of people have heard of TED Talks, but what specifically is TEDx? What is TEDx Temecula? Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah. That's a very good question because as I'm out in the community or wearing this shirt, sometimes it sparks a conversation or people say, what is TED or TEDx? Or most people do know what it is. But as I try to explain it, many people are familiar with TED, the brand. And if you're not, maybe you've seen them on YouTube. There's a red dot on a stage, usually one person delivering an idea or a talk about an experience or a story. And you could see these all over the globe via YouTube. And it's something that's been going on since 1984 when TED started. So what TEDx is it's an independently organized TED event. So we work under the same guidelines and licenses through TED Official, but they only have one event a year, and it's a big event. And so TEDx gives an opportunity for local communities to still experience the power of sitting in a room with like-minded individuals, listening to folks deliver whatever they're passionate about, their great idea from a stage, which is recorded and then published to YouTube via the TED platform. So in short, we bring speakers to a stage that have a great idea that's original to them, that's original to the world, that they want to share. And there's all kinds of guidelines that we check before we put that person on the stage, but it can be anyone from as amateur speaker to a seasoned professional and everything in between.
That's a great point, and something that I learned from going through the TEDx experience myself is that because TED has been around for such a long time, and I've had an opportunity to see TED Talks on YouTube, and they are always fascinating, interesting people who have had amazing lives, are really well spoken. Right, they're up there giving this wonderful presentation or talk, and when I had the idea that I wanted to apply for TEDx, I was like, I feel like I'm a decent public speaker, but I didn't feel like, I was worried that I wasn't accomplished enough or didn't have the right speaking chops to go up on the TED stage. I obviously applied, but I wanted to, maybe if you could talk a little bit about like who should apply, like who should apply to be a TEDx speaker? Why should somebody think about throwing their hat there in the ring to go be up on the TEDx Temecula stage, or wherever they're listening from, kind of putting their hat in there?
So first off, let me say that it is a true honor to be on this call with you because you are a former TEDx Temecula speaker, and you, of course, delivered that talk prior to my leadership with the organization. However, your talk was full of confidence. It was full of great information, and I thought it was pretty neat that I get to run into you in our community, and you've been a TEDx speaker. So congratulations on that. And that exactly is a great segue into who should apply and why. We offer speaker coaching to every one of our speakers that applies and that gets selected to be a speaker. You probably went through something similar.
I did.
And of course, we give our speakers the option to, of course, they can always hire their own speaker coach, but we do it for free, and we offer great coaching. And through the whole process leading up to the main event, we even do in-person rehearsal, not only the day before, but a couple weeks prior as well, just to give them a feeling of being on the stage. So many of our speakers, they're not seasoned speakers. They haven't even spoken in front of an audience, let alone on a stage somewhere. And we encourage all walks to do that. Some of the best talks that we've ever had delivered from the TEDx Temecula stage were by folks that had never stepped foot on a stage. Matter of fact, we had just 2 years ago, we had a speaker, a young girl. She told me that she was dared to apply because her friend said that she had such a great idea that she should do it. But she had no reason to. She wasn't looking for notoriety. She didn't need it to add to her portfolio of accomplishments. She just had this idea. Well, it was such a great idea, we put it on. And we weren't the only ones that thought it was a great idea, because we got an email from TED official after everything was submitted, and they said, hey, this is really on brand for us this year, and we're going to hold on to this talk and release it later on this year as a special editor's choice pick.
Wow.
What a cool thing. From a young girl who had never spoken on stage. The only time she had ever delivered that talk, she told me, was around the dinner table to her family over and over again. She was just fantastic execution. Just this last year, in 2025, we had another, it was actually my first time putting two speakers on the stage at the same time as a mother and daughter. And once again, we got that email from TED saying, hey, we're going to release that. They're just now releasing it on August 1st, and this was given last September. So you can imagine that speaker's been quite anxious about getting it uploaded. But I hope that kind of explains that these folks come from all over the place. Last year we had a famous actor on the stage, obviously a very seasoned professional, knows how to speak, and he did. He delivered a very compelling talk and ended up in a standing ovation, but so did the amateurs as well. And really yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, sorry. I was just going to say that you've touched on some really important parts that, one, were important to me when I was going through the process, is that speaker coaching, because it's intimidating, I think, a little bit for people to go up and give a TED Talk, right? Like it's a big deal. And to be up on a stage is also can bring some nerves. I remember when I was getting ready to give my talk, I was sure I was going to walk up there and forget who I was, like, let alone remember my whole speech. And I think a lot of people don't realize that when you go up there to give your talk, there's no teleprompter up there with your lines. You have to have it memorized, the whole thing from front to back, because there's no notes up there. There's no teleprompter that's going to remind you where you are. And having that in the back of your mind and then getting up on that stage and seeing those big lights, it's like, I don't even know who I am anymore, let alone what I was going to talk about. So having all that speaker coaching was so helpful, so critical. And the rehearsals before were really helpful to actually be on the stage, practice it, walk it through. And then you also touched on another thing that people up there are sharing ideas. They're not self-promoting, right? We're not meant to be up there promoting a business or trying to sell anything or trying to promote ourselves, right? We're not trying to do it for any personal gain. It's
kind of against the rules. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And so it's meant to be sharing ideas for the benefit of people, right? The people that are going to be listening to it, not for the person that's up on stage. And I think that's a really cool thing about TED.
Yes. No, I'm glad you brought up those points because, for one, going back to the memorization of the talk. And so that's one of the cool things that especially you get to see as a live audience member is you can look at these all day long on YouTube. You don't get to see the introduction, the opening part. You don't get to see what happens in between the talks. You don't get to really feel the emotion of being in the theater, listening to that person passionately deliver whatever it is that they're talking about. But you're right, there are no notes. This is a 100% authentic memorization. If you see any flaws, it's because it was natural and that's what happened. There's no, let's redo that, let's retake that. It is live and ready to go. So a lot of times I'm so impressed with our speakers because you're right, they're so nervous. And I mean, public speaking is one of the most feared things in the world, right? So above death. So getting some of these folks up there on the stage and watching them just completely get into their own zone and deliver this talk without even right now as I stall to try to think of the next word, they don't have that opportunity. And even if they do start to kind of go off and forget what their memorized talk is, they got to keep it together and keep it going through. It's very fascinating. And yeah, there's no notes, so we don't even have confidence monitors to help with the speakers. Uh, One thing that's important to mention in that is that when you're a TED speaker, you're the only thing on the stage. There is nobody else to look at. Some folks have slides that'll go and display behind them, but there's nothing else to look at. So you have to remember that you have an entire audience that's staring at your face as you're talking. So if you were looking down at a confidence monitor, if you were looking at a teleprompter, they would very obviously see that. And it takes away from the authenticity, I think, of the experience and all the hard work that those people put into it.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's something kind of magical about the TED stage that really hones in on the story that's being told. And that's, I think, a great experience for the audience too, which leads me to my next question is that maybe someone doesn't have an idea they think is ready for sharing on the stage yet, but they want to go and be inspired and hear other people's really great ideas. Tell me a little bit about the experience of going. It's not just the talks. There's other parts of the day that people will get
Yes.
to experience. And so share a little bit about what that would look like.
Absolutely. It is a full experience. You're right. So, like, for example, our event alone, we start registration an hour before we open the doors for the event. And during that registration time, again, we have to remember that we're all there to hear and share great ideas. And you don't have to be a speaker on the stage to share your ideas. With our audience members are talking with each other, speaking to complete strangers, discussing the talks that they heard, because our event does include a lunch halfway through the event. So we typically have 4 speakers in the morning, break for lunch, have 4 speakers in the afternoon. That really gives the opportunity for those attendees to reflect back on the 4 talks that they just heard, the performance that we have. We open up the show with a live performance, and sometimes it's a drum circle. We had a magician. We've had saxophonist, father and son saxophonist. Always something unique and on brand. And when I say on brand, I'm meaning that sticking with the true authentic originality of TED. So things that are not offensive, that wouldn't go against, for example, adults only type advertising, or things that are exclusive, I should say, right? So everything has to be inclusive, all of our sponsors, to the music that we play, and it keeps everybody feeling involved and not alienated. So for our event, like I mentioned, you have your photo booth usually in the orientation. We have the step and repeat banner. We've got cool things that you can hold and take photos with your friends or family or strangers that are there. During the lunch break, similar activities, as well as the lunch, dessert. We have ice cream usually. It's nice and warm September days, so ice cream is always helpful. And of course, our lunch is always going to be a locally catered, farm to table, as organic and natural as we can possibly get it, lunch for everyone. And after the last afternoon final speakers, we finish the day off with some light entertainment, and then we invite everybody, all the guests, out onto the courtyard, and that's their opportunity to connect with the speakers that they heard. All the speakers are out there. So unlike a lot of these events that people attend to listen to a speaker on a stage, you don't usually get access to those speakers right afterwards. And this is very unique because you're right there, you're taking pictures with them, you're shaking hands. A lot of times our speakers will have books that they're available to sell. They'll be selling and signing books out in the courtyard. And then we do offer, shortly after that, a very intimate speaker reception where people can buy an add-on for a ticket to come into this exclusive limited seat opportunity to visit and really dig in and ask specific clarifying questions that they have for the speakers, or whatever might be on their mind, or even tell them how much their talk affected them in their life so far. So it makes for a very unique experience. Like you mentioned earlier, it's not just listening to some talks and going home. You actually get to mix, mingle, and enjoy an audience of different minds that are all kind of going the same direction that you're in. It's a pretty powerful feeling. I had the opportunity last year to attend an actual TED official event out in Atlanta, and it was a 3-day event. So you get to submerge yourself in that environment for 3 days. And it's just magical, the conversations that happen, and the lack of self-promotion, like you mentioned earlier. There's no business cards being exchanged.
Yeah, it's a really immersive experience. Even I would say from my perspective, being a speaker, because sometimes you give a presentation or you have a video online or whatever, and people might like it or whatever. The experience is very immersive, even for the speaker's perspective. So, when you give a talk or maybe you put something out there on the internet, sometimes you get in some interaction, but it's very different, I think, for me anyways, when I gave my talk and then to be done with it and then be out in the courtyard with people who were just in the audience and getting their immediate feedback and their questions. And it was just such a wonderful experience. Everybody was really there to learn something and to experience something. And everybody was so wonderful. I really love that that's the format that the audience gets to interact and have lunch with and talk to the speakers, and we get to talk to them. And it's just was really wonderful. I think it's a very cool and fun and inspiring kind of way to spend a day.
I'm glad you brought that up because it's a very important aspect, and we kind of touched on it briefly earlier, but the promotional aspect, the salesy aspect. So you just mentioned everybody's there to learn something. And I think that's a really important part of TEDx, and people that have not experienced it before is understanding that this is not an event where you're going to be sold to. There's so many events that we go to and we listen to speakers, and God bless them for doing whatever they're doing, but a lot of times, there's an option to buy in, opt in, scan this QR code, I'll send you this free thing. But ultimately it comes down to sales, and that's their business. But at TED, you never ever have to worry about that. Like I said, we touched on it earlier, and I just wanted to expand on it a little bit. From the stage, it's against the rules. Like, even if you're there talking about this amazing nonprofit that you've created that's helping hundreds of thousands of lives, you can talk about the idea of that, but we never mention the name of the organization. We never mention the names of these businesses that people have created, or nonprofits.
A link to
like
give, or
yes,
yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Because as soon as people hear that, they're like, oh, great, now I'm being sold to. And that's the last thing that TEDx, the whole organization, ever wants. And so it creates that same experience, that same environment that you're talking about, where people are just there to learn. They're not there to buy, sell, join anything. It's just, I want to learn. I liked that idea. I wasn't crazy about that idea, but it made me think. That's all we ever want.
Yeah, and you touched on it before about the inclusivity of the event, that it's a fun thing to bring your kids to as well. Like, they're gonna be, I think it's gonna, I think there's so many positive TED Talks out there where kids can really be exposed to new ideas and be inspired. And even there's been kids that have given TED Talks, and so
Yes.
you might, like the young girl who gave a talk a couple of years ago. You might have a child at home who has a wonderful idea worth sharing, and it's good experience, I think, for them.
Yeah, which really neat that you brought that up, because this year, I don't really want to talk about who we have for speakers. We just finalized our speakers, but I can give you a little hint that we do have somebody under the age of 18 that we're very excited to welcome to the stage, and she's got something that I think all of us need to hear, which is why she's there. But you're right, and we encourage children. We encourage young adults, teenagers to come to the event. Matter of fact, we partner with a lot of the local schools here and school districts and promote a much more reduced student ticket, because we want to encourage those minds to come in and listen to these ideas and know that they have a voice as well, and that their ideas are valued and that they should be sharing them. So we encourage applications from all walks of life. You can't be too young and you can't be too old to give a TED Talk.
Speaking of the event this year, there's always a theme, right? What's the theme this year? When's the event? What's happening to that?
Thanks for asking, Connie. So the event is actually on September 26th. It's a Saturday, the last one of September. And we start at 10 a.m. Usually goes until about 4 p.m., give or take who's more long-winded than the next. And sometimes it's me that's more long-winded. I'm the lucky MC and host for the event. So I at times, we'll go a little bit over, but there's a lot of really cool things that are going that should be highlighted. So the event is September 26th. This year's theme is What If? We wanted to come up with a theme that wasn't super focused on negativity or things that are going on in our current climate, but really an idea of what if I thought differently, or what if that were to be the case? And so we've selected some really great speakers. We're adding some new things into the program this year that we haven't normally added in. Now, one of those things is lightning rounds. So when I visited the TED event, they had these really cool, the most TED talks are, I average about 15 minutes, 14 to 15 minutes. They can be no longer than 17 minutes. And so we try to keep our speakers around the 15. Well, when I was at TED, they had these lightning rounds, which was a 7-minute hard stop talk. And it was really engaging and fun because these folks had their slideshow kind of on an automatic slide change. So they didn't have any control over that. They had to memorize the slide changes. They had to memorize their talk. And they just delivered the most compelling 7 minutes that you've heard. So I wanted to adopt that and bring that back, because it's the idea of going out and experiencing all these other events is, what can we share with our community that they would think has value. So we have a couple of 7-minute lightning rounds, which allowed us to add a couple more speakers than we normally would. We've got some pretty neat entertainment lined up as well for this year. But again, part of the charm of a TEDx event or a TED event is not knowing. So we do hold on to our speakers, the topics. We don't announce them until typically that first week of September. And that's when people will start to see what kind of topics they're going to look forward to hearing. But one of the keys is knowing that if you purchase a ticket to a TED or a TEDx event, you don't have to know who's going to be on the stage, because you already know that it's going to be an impactful and powerful experience. And that's kind of what we try to stand by as well, because it is.
Right. And I think that's a good, important thing to note is that, while TED started in 1984, I think is what you said. Tell me a little bit about the origin of TEDx Temecula. And because I know this, it's a licensed thing, right? So it makes
Right.
sure that the quality is a TED level quality event. Like, they just don't let just anybody do it if you're not putting on TED level quality events. So talk to me a little bit about the origin of TEDx Temecula, and how we are and how you guys make sure that event lives up to the TED standard.
Absolutely. So I had an amazing predecessor. The gentleman's name was Jim McLaughlin. You know Jim.
I do.
But our viewers probably don't. So a really great local business owner who, when he moved here from San Diego County, he moved to the area and he had been to a TED event. He thought, man, this is something that this little Temecula community needed. And at that time, we were a little community. I mean, we're growing for sure. And not as little as we were back then. But he says, man, we need something like that in this town. So he started doing some research and looking to see what it takes to have a TEDx event. And it turns out it really doesn't take much if you take away the consideration of all the volunteer hours and everything else that goes with that. But you don't pay for the license. You apply for a license from TED Official, and if you qualify, and if that license is available, for example, nobody else could get the name TEDx Temecula, same like TEDx San Diego, those names are already taken. But you can find other ways to have something in a nearby town, or I'm getting off course. So Jim decided, I'm going to try this thing out. And so he applied for the license. And with a license, you're allowed certain restrictions, right? So your audience size can be restricted, the things that you can do. And the way to get past those restrictions is to get more involved with TED, which makes sense. They want you to model your event after how they're modeling their events. So come to the event to figure it out. So once you attend a TED official event, you then get your license. You've qualified to get a license to qualify for a larger audience size, which is one of the reasons why I went to the main TED event last year, is to get the license transferred from my predecessor to myself. So, which has already happened. So Jim ran this organization for 11 years through the pandemic, and didn't skip a single year putting people on the stage and collecting these great ideas. And at a certain point, when you volunteer that long and you run an organization that's a nonprofit, sometimes you've kind of seen your vision fulfilled, and it's time to hand the baton off to the next person. And that's what happened here in town. Jim and I knew each other. I had been doing a lot of things here locally, so we had a sit-down conversation. He asked my interest. I'll save you the long story. I accepted and said yes, And in 2024, I organized my first event. I got involved in 23, kind of learning the ropes, and that's we're now continuing the legacy that Jim put into place. Thank goodness, because he did a lot of the hard work, the groundwork, creating the relationships in town. We have an amazing relationship with the city of Temecula. They're one of our biggest supporters every year. They provide the theater for us. They provide a lot of promotion and advertising for us. They've been a tremendous partnership. And then we also get partners through other small businesses or organizations here in town that support us financially. Some support us in kind donations. Because it truly does. Nobody makes money off of this. There's no salaries to pay, but we don't put on an amazing, impactful experience without the financial support and in-kind support of so many great organizations in our area. And I apologize. There may have been a second part of that question there, Connie.
No, I was fully engaged in that. I think you were also touching on something I wanted to ask you about anyways, is that it's a nonprofit, right? So,
Yes.
So people can support these efforts beyond just buying tickets. That's supporting it as well. But people can get involved volunteering. I'm sure, like if people have a speaking experience, coaching and things like that, that's probably a good opportunity to volunteer, or the day of ushering
Yes.
and lights and all the different things that go into the event. But I think you've been showing how the TEDx has evolved over time, right? Grown
Yes.
From what Jim's started, and he's really built out a really beautiful event in the community. And you've taken that baton and are building it even bigger.
Yeah, and we have a great venue. The Old Town Temecula Community Theater is located right in our beautiful Old Town area, and so it's a perfect location for folks, especially when we end around 4 o'clock. You can literally just walk right down the street to a ton of different restaurants and boutiques to visit, grab souvenirs, because we have people that travel not only here locally to come support and check it out, but we have folks from San Diego, LA County, Orange County that come out. Some of our speakers are from the surrounding area and they'll bring their guests to come out. So I love our location. It's perfect for folks to really just enjoy not only the event, but what the town of Temecula has to offer, or some of them stay overnight and they'll spend some time out at the wineries the following day in a kind of a celebratory getaway. One of the things that I did want to kind of come back to, Connie, was when we talk about the speakers, and you said, who should apply to be a TEDx speaker? And I want to counter that with not necessarily with who shouldn't apply, but kind of give some guidelines to that. And I know we talked about, no self-promotion and all that, but I think that's important because I know a lot of folks, for example, we sifted through just under 1,000 applications this year.
Oh, wow.
And these applications come in from not only throughout California, but all over the country and even outside of the country. And I understand what these folks are doing. They have ideas, and they apply to a lot of TEDx events. It's not just Temecula thereafter. But some of them get, I'm sure, disappointed, frustrated when their ideas aren't chosen. And it's really important to realize what TED and TEDx is about, right? And so I always encourage anybody, before you apply, if you're thinking about applying, what is your idea? What do you want to share? And then search that out. Search out if there's other TEDx talks that are like that, or even Google search or AI assisted search to find out what the rules are for TED. Because you may eliminate yourself before you even send in the application and save yourself the time and get a better idea of what it's about. We get a lot of business coaches and people like that they want to be able to promote that they've shared their 5-step plan or their 3-step and promote all over everywhere that they have a following that, they've done this TED Talk. But again, what was the benefit? What were they trying to accomplish with that? And really, it should be trying to share your idea with the world without anything in return. And that's what makes it such a special and unique experience. They just wanted to come back and at least talk about that, because I didn't want everybody kind of running out and shooting an application in right away. Do some research. It's a very prestigious and honorable position to be in when you deliver a TED Talk.
No, you're exactly right, because TED does have their guidelines for what you're meant to do, not beyond just the promotions and all of that. And TED stands for Technology, Engineering, and Design, right? Is that what it is?
Technology, Education, and Design.
Education and Design. So there you go. So that is one like kind of bucket of ideas, right? Like do they fall somewhere in those buckets? Is it a novel idea, or am I, is it something that I didn't realize somebody else had already
Right.
put out there? But on the other side, I want to be like devil's advocate a little bit. Just my experience when I applied, I forget what year it was, maybe 2022, I think. And I submitted my idea, and then I went to the interview phase, kind of explained my idea, and wasn't chosen that year. And then Jim said, "Try again," and I was like, well, okay, I'll try again. And I think it wasn't, my idea hadn't changed. My talk was on the exact same topic, but I had refined how I explained it, right? Because it was a little bit confusing, and I don't know if it was confusing, but it was a little bit nuanced and complicated about my particular talk. It wasn't something that I easily explained in like a 10-second elevator pitch sort of thing. And I needed to refine what my story was, what my talk was about, so that I could communicate like, why is this unique and interesting for someone to hear? And so I tried again, and I was accepted. And so I think given that guidelines that you had given to people, if they have tried and it didn't work out, but you feel confident that you kind of check those boxes, it's unique, you're not selling anything, it's something that brings value to people, and it kind of fits within TED's mission, try again, right? Like you might strike lightning the next time as well.
Yes, that is such a huge, important part of this whole experience. And I'm so glad that you brought that up, because like so we just this last week finished our speaker selection process. And so we wanted to send out a notice to all the folks that didn't make it. And I went back and forth with my counterpart regarding, what we're going to send out, because I don't want them to be discouraged and never apply again. There are so many reasons why a talk can't be chosen. Not only because of the numbers. I mean, if we have almost 1,000, we can only choose 8. That makes it very difficult. But 2, maybe you delivered a very similar talk to somebody else that they just delivered it a little bit better, and yours needs a little refinement. And then the part of, looking up and seeing if somebody has already delivered a talk similar to your idea, that doesn't necessarily disqualify you from ever delivering that. It just means maybe deliver it in a different way. Because all of us humans, we have the ability to receive information differently from one another, right? We can sit here and talk back and forth, and somebody watching may not quite grasp what we're saying, but if we explained it a different way. And I think there's a lot of importance in being able to still deliver a similar idea, but in a completely different context and different delivery, because you might actually hit the ears that didn't understand it in the first place. So I'm always, and in our rejection, unfortunately, it sounds so negative, but in our rejection email, it includes that whole idea of, please don't be discouraged. Please continue trying to share your idea. Apply to other TEDx's if you like, but apply again next year. We invite you back. So much so that a new thing that we implemented this year is the speaker coach, my co-organizer Portia, and I decided that we're going to do a free workshop. And so in that rejection email, we sent out an option to check out 2 different workshops that we're going to be hosting at the end of this month and at the end of August, for those that couldn't make it to either or the other. But really just points that we're looking for as organizers, as speaker selection committee, the application process. Very important to follow the guidelines in there, because we have so many to go through. We don't have time to read a novel or listen to your 15-minute pitch of why you should be a speaker. So there's certain things that we look for, and that immediately will get somebody disqualified. And we want to make sure people are cognitive of those things. So we're offering that. But the other thing that we offer is we deliver a discount code for anybody that applied, and encourage them to come and check out the event. Experience it first for yourself, so you can see what happens behind the scenes. When the video stops, you can see what happens in real life as it continues. You can feel the impact that the speaker is giving. You can see what the audience is responding with. The whole thing is a big experience that somebody should acknowledge prior, even if you don't make it. Come support the organization that you want to be on the stage for. That helps us also to identify who's really there for the right reasons or not. Of course, we have people that apply from out of town, but if you're local and you want to be there, show up.
I also wanted to talk about some of the other, speaking of those workshops, you also do some other local events throughout the year, salons. Do you want to touch on those a little bit for people that maybe didn't know there were other opportunities throughout the year to interact with TED?
Yeah. And like I mentioned, TED has a whole slew of different programs and things that they've created over the years, and certain TEDx's have tried, okay, let's adopt that into a new thing. And we have to use their terms and their names. And so I always feel silly whenever I'm promoting that we're doing a TEDx salon, because it really sounds like we're just getting together and doing each other's hair or nails, right? And what a salon is truly, it's just a gathering of a very informal gathering, under 100 people in, we change our venues all over the place around town because it's really a community engagement event. The format of a salon is an evening that you spend 2 hours with perfect strangers. We have a host that comes and chooses 2 TED Talks that we're going to listen to. So we choose a venue that has a nice screen and good audio, and we'll do a quick introduction, and everybody's got their seats. We usually have light snacks and refreshments. And then we dive into a TED Talk that host decided they felt was most impactful and they wanted to share with the audience. The really, really cool part of a salon, because we can watch a TED Talk anywhere we want, but the cool part is that when you're finished talking, we set a timer for 10 minutes. We have it on the screen so everybody can see it. And we engage the audience in a conversation. And it's not about the host leading the conversation. It's about each person in the audience talking about what that TED Talk meant to them, or how it impacted them or didn't impact them. They can disagree with it. And Connie, there's something so magical about perfect strangers sitting in a room having a constructive, positive conversation about something that they just saw witnessed together. And so in that 10 minutes, you'll be amazed at some of the things that these people share, either from their personal stories, what came up for them, and then another person in the audience will say, man, I didn't see it that way, and you're truly creating this expansion in your mind to really, perceive somebody else's information, to put your feet in somebody else's shoes, if you will. And after that 10 minutes, we kind of reel it back in and we watch one more. So there's 2 talks that we watch during this. And then that second talk, we'll do it all over again, set that 10-minute timer, go into the conversations. And it's always a unique experience because though these are complete strangers, we don't serve them alcohol. So there's no liquid courage or anything. But we usually have to kick them out of the room because they're engaged, and so many people are just talking, and the venue needs to clean up. We got to get out of there. But it's a magical part that I don't regret and I don't hate doing, is asking people, hey, can you continue this conversation in the parking lot? I love that it's happening, but it's just something really impactful and powerful about witnessing that and being able to help facilitate that thing from to happening.
For sure. I think people are probably a little bit starved for that sort of interaction. I think so much of our lives are lived online in comment boxes, and comments are usually not the best reflection on humanity all of the time. But I think it's amazing to have a space where people can come into a room, watch a talk about a topic maybe that they had never considered, and share their thoughts, opposing and supporting, and be in a supportive environment where everyone's just there to learn from each other. You don't get a lot of opportunities for that sort of thing anymore in today's society. And so I think it's a really cool opportunity for community members to come together and experience that.
For sure. It really, really is. And we're always striving to get new audience members in, from specific industries, right? Like we love to get healthcare workers in there because they have really cool things to share as well. Again, I already mentioned getting the students in there and educators to come in, because there's just so much to be learned. You're right about that.
For sure. So we have a few more minutes. So one, we've talked about the upcoming event in September. If somebody is thinking about applying, when is the window open to do that for next year's event? When should people start thinking about, if I want to do this, I need to get ready to start thinking about my application?
That's a very good question. And a new format that we're actually adopting this coming year is, so right now our applications are closed. We shut those down, so we weren't continuing to get some while we're finalizing these speakers. And to be more intentional, to have people that are more prepared, what we've decided to do is we're going to open up just a window of application period. So it's going to be January 1st till the end of March. And so that'll allow people a couple of months to make sure that they can set their calendars, set their reminders to, okay, get in, I got to do this application. A lot of times when we know that it's just open 24/7, 365, we're like, oh yeah, I still got to do that. Oh yeah, I'm going to apply. I want to apply. And it just doesn't happen. And then all of a sudden we start posting about speaker selection, and then I'm getting messages, hey, is it too late to apply? So this way it gives people something to look forward to, something to prepare for. And so to answer your question, yes, straight from our website, TEDxTemecula.com, there's an option right there, become a speaker, and apply to be a speaker is the option. There's some simple instructions on what to do. We just like to gather a little bit of information. We do ask for a 2-minute video submission of what your talk would be about. And that's the difficult part of that. It's a very simple process. And so I do invite people to mark your calendars for January 1st and get your applications in. We're very excited about that.
And then give them time to come to the event in September, see what it's like
Yes.
in person, think about their idea, and then get ready to apply after the first of the year. And you've talked about a few different things you guys are doing differently this year. You talked about going to the TED event in Atlanta. I know you've been doing a lot of research on other events and how to kind of continue to grow and make new things happen. Do you want to share a little bit about, I don't know if I don't want to spill any secrets or anything like that that's coming up, but like anything new or things that you guys are thinking about to continue to make the Temecula event special?
Very cool. Yeah, absolutely, Connie. So the TED community is very neat. And as I continue to embed myself into the community, I'm meeting some amazing, incredible people, attending some really, really cool events. So right here in Southern California, we have quite a few TEDx events. Matter of fact, big news that TED announced last year is that they are moving their main event from Quebec, Canada, here to San Diego, California. They've spent 10 years in Canada, so having them here in Southern California, right in our backyard, is just such a unique and cool experience. We're very excited to have them here, and their event will be in 2027, usually around April. But aside from that, there's a lot of TEDx events, and they're not competition. Nobody's trying to steal customers from other TEDx events. The more abundant, the better, the more options. So what we've started to do is network with some of the local TEDx organizers. So we've created a really great relationship with TEDx La Jolla, and they offer a youth TEDx event. So everybody that's on their stage are students. They're under the age of 18, anywhere from middle school through high school, and we've even saw a couple younger speakers on that stage, and it sparked some conversation with us, which is why we really started to have some younger folks on our stage this year as well. But the other thing that we've noticed and that we've had our team attend is workshops. So workshops dedicated to organizers and how to create the most impact, how to choose your speakers, how to look for other partnerships, sponsors, and things in the community. And so we get to share ideas as well. We had an amazing sponsor last year. We had Macy's right here out of Temecula. The Macy's department store came on, and that was such a huge accomplishment to have such a well-known name out supporting us. And they did so much. They provided makeup artists for our speakers.
Oh, cool.
They even gave me a nice sport coat to wear, this red velvet sport coat.
Oh, wow.
It was just, and they were such a tremendous asset for us, and we were so appreciative. So it's things like that we get to share with other organizers. And some of my leadership team, they've been visiting. They just went to TEDx Los Angeles, and so that was a really big event, set up and executed completely different than ours. They do theirs in the evening, and they just do the speakers all the way through. And some people really love that format. They don't want to spend the whole day, like what we do, which is really nice about having so many TEDx events in the area, because different formats fit different people. Again, back to people receive information differently. Some just want it done and let's get out. Some people want to digest that information and take some time and interact with others. So it really gives that variety and that option. But yeah, we have been very much embedding ourselves in the TEDx community. The goal for TEDx Temecula is we truly do want to be one of the highest rated, one of the echelons of a TEDx event experience right here in Temecula. And I think we've got what it takes. Our theater is beautiful. It's a perfect size. We've great partnerships here. We have an incredible team that just continues to exceed beyond what our imagination was. Every year we all get together, we meet, we say, hey, this is what this year's going to look like. And then it just comes out even better than we anticipated. And it goes to show from great leaders, from great volunteers everywhere. Anything's capable. And I'm very, very fortunate to have such an incredible leadership team that helps support the vision that I've put out, and also shares their vision of it, and gives incredible insights. So we're very fortunate right here.
I would say so. I mean, the number of volunteers that go to make this work, and it's not just the day of, it's months and months of volunteering and support to make this event the success that it is. So we're really blessed to have a community that gives so much, both philanthropically and of their time, to support this event. Jonathan, is there anything else I missed? Anything else you want to share with our audience about TEDx Temecula, or how they can get involved?
Yeah, if I may, with the event coming up so soon here in September, we are in the midst of looking for our partners for this year. So again, like I mentioned earlier in the conversation, we have a great need for in-kind sponsorships, as well as financial, monetary sponsorships. And the kinds of partners that we look for, we don't look for just anybody, right? And I mentioned earlier, it's a very inclusive organization. So there are some organizations that I wouldn't even be able to accept assistance from. But there's so many other options out there. And really, we look for partners that value people's voices, that value community involvement, allowing or giving a space for speakers to share their ideas, knowing that when you sponsor a TEDx event, it's not about all the ROI and the branding everywhere. It's because you believe in something and you want to support that belief. And that's where we get some of our best partnerships, is that they truly do share the passion and vision that we have. And I love that, in a world where a lot of times what can you do for me for this? It's, yes, I believe in that and I want to support it, and this is what I'm going to do. So we are looking for partners. I do invite anybody that's listening that might be interested in any aspect of TEDx Temecula, whether that's partnering, in-kind, volunteering, speaking, or just asking more questions. We're very easy to get a hold of, TEDxTemecula.com. Our social medias on Facebook and on Instagram, we check those regularly. We invite anybody to follow us on our socials, because that's where we keep a lot of our updates. That's where we're going to release the speaker information, put on our website as well. And then, of course, purchase tickets. Come check out this event. Whether you're a local Temecula person, or you're somewhere here in the nearby area, or you just happen to be visiting around September 26th, it's always the last Saturday of September. So even if it's not this year, we're not going anywhere. This is definitely an organization that's going to stay put right here in Temecula and continue to grow and continue to impact people's lives the best way that we possibly can. So
that's great to hear, because it's such a staple, I think, now in Temecula, that people want to see it continue to grow and be successful. So I'll make sure to include links and tags. So if you want to get involved with TEDx Temecula, you want to support it in any way, we'll make sure to be able to connect everyone to that. Jonathan, thanks so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate all you do for the community, all you do to support TEDx Temecula, and I thank you for being on the show.
Absolutely, Connie. Anytime. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course.
All right.
That's it for today's episode of Bottles to the Boardroom. If you enjoyed this conversation, follow the show, leave a review, and share it with someone building something bold, or someone who simply appreciates a great story paired with a great glass of wine. I'm Connie Stouffer, and I'll see you next time in Southern California wine country, where business growth meets the good life, and every great idea starts with a good pour.